So welcome everyone to this WORAN event on early career lightning talks. I'm Frances O'Brien, chair of the WORAN committee, and you are very welcome. As I said, to friends old and new, if it's your first time, you're in for a great event. Can I have the next slide, please, Shima? So our programme today, I start off with this very short welcome, and then we have 6 speakers, each of whom are going to do a lightning talk in 5 minutes about something that interests them, their research or some topic they're interested in. And we're going to divide that into 2 rounds. So we'll have 3 speakers in each round, and in between, or at the end of each round, we will have a short breakout session of networking. So Amy from the OR Society, who's managing this technical side for us, will put us all into breakout rooms, and we can talk about what we found interesting about what the speakers have just spoken about. So we'll repeat that twice, and then we'll come back and share any insights or feedback from those breakout sessions, and finish the event by 2:30. Now, we would really invite you to add your feedback on the event, because we find it very useful to see how you have found the event and get any ideas for future events. Now, before I move on, if you had asked for something before in one of the feedbacks, you didn't leave your email. So if you do make suggestions, or if you ask for further information about something in that feedback document, please do leave an email address so that we have a way of getting back in touch with you. Next slide, please, Shima. So a very warm welcome to WORAN. We're the OR Society's network for women in OR and analytics. We were set up to advance knowledge, interest and education in OR as far as this concerns women, and to support and empower women considering a career in OR or working in OR. We are very grateful to a number of organisations that have sponsored our activities, and you can see these listed on the slide here. Next slide, please, Shima. So the purpose of our events is multiple opportunities here. We meet to discuss interesting topics, to share and learn from each other, and to build a network of people, and to broaden our networks, and to have fun. Next slide, please. So if you're new to these events, then you would be interested to know that we have been running an event every month, virtually since the start of lockdown, or approximately one a month. And looking forward, we have a series of events planned for the next 3 months. So in April, we have a Wikithon, where we intend to populate Wikipedia with details about relevant women in OR. We're delighted in May to have Christina Padgel from the Clinical OR unit, who is a member of Independent Sage, and she regularly posts OR related tweets on Twitter about things related to the pandemic. So it's great that we can have her to speak with us. And then in June, we have a joint event with the Southern OR group, where we'll hear from, I'm looking at a my mind's gone completely blank.
Sally Brailsford.
Thank you. God, I don't know. I know Sally really well, so it's one of those moments. So we'll hear from Sally Brailsford about her career in OR. And we do have events going forward into the future, but we'll let you know on a rolling basis what those will be. Can I have the next slide, please, Shima? So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Shima Nurain, who has put together this event, and she will take over from now. Thanks, Shima.
Thank you, Francis. Hello, everyone. Very good morning to you. Oh wait, it's not morning, is it? A very good afternoon to you all. I don't know about everyone else, but my sense of time is completely warped. It seems like days are all sort of merging into one. Right, that's the end of my internal monologue. Moving on to the my name is Shima, as Francis said. I'm going to be chairing this event. I'm a fourth-year PhD researcher in ORMS at the University of Kent. I am also currently employed as a lecturer in business analytics, also at the University of Kent. Unemployment is just around the corner, so if any of you are interested in hiring me, do let me know. Now that I have successfully marketed myself, let's get the show on the road. We have a lineup of 6 fantastic early career women, some of whom are going to share with you their journey, while others are very keen on showcasing their work. Our speakers come from academia and industry, so we've got a really good mix. We hope that the talks and the successive networking breakout sessions will spark discussions. You may even discover potential collaborators. You may exchange nuggets of wisdom, give and receive feedback, and who knows, we might even be inspired. So as Francis has already pointed out, the talks will take place over 2 rounds. Each round is followed by a networking breakout, and each speaker will be given their own breakout room. I just want to add that the breakout rooms are quite informal, and I'd like to request the audience, as you are listening, please just think about discussion points or questions or feedback that you might like to share with the speaker, or we could even just talk about the weather. Anything goes, really. So I also understand that not everyone might want to participate in the breakout rooms, and that is fine. You can either mute yourselves or just not join the rooms, but please don't exit the event, unless of course you absolutely have to, because we do have round 2. Before we begin, let's do a quick poll. This will give us an idea or a sense of who is in the audience. Amy, would you please do the honors? So you are going to get a poll. Please just pick whatever suits you best. Can we see the results, Amy? Right, okay. It seems like we've got a very good mix of professionals, so this should be very exciting. So without further ado, let's now watch our speakers rise to the challenge of summarizing their work in only 5 minutes. Also a reminder to all speakers, I know I've said this 10 times, I'm going to say it again. I will let you know when you have 1 minute left, and again when your 5 minutes are up. So just keep an eye out for me. So in the first round of our lightning talks, we have 3 speakers. First up is Oiku. Trying to change the slide. 1 second. There we go. So Oiku would like to introduce herself, so I'm not going to tell very much about her. She's going to talk about her journey so far. So over to you, Oiku, ready when you are.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen now. Can you see it?
Perfect.
Great, I'll just make it full screen. And I guess everything's working, right? Great. So hi everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here to talk about my research journey as an early career researcher today. And I'll just get right to it since I only have 5 minutes. My journey started back in 2011 when I started studying industrial engineering at Taub University of Economics and Technology in Ankara, Turkey, which is also where I'm originally from. And I was introduced to concepts and domains such as mathematical modeling, which is also the wider domain that I'm currently working on, as well as other applications such as production planning and other skills such as coding. And I was really interested in production planning problems specifically during my time here. And I wanted to do something more and I wanted to learn more about these problems. So I got to do a Erasmus research internship at the Université de WORAN in Metz-France, where I spent 4 lovely months and I learned about green lot sizing problems here. So these are kind of like variants to the traditional production planning or lot sizing problems. And it was really an interesting time, and it definitely gave me a lot of opportunities to improve myself in this domain. And I wanted to continue working on lot sizing problems even after this point on. So in 2015, I applied for my PhD at the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, where I worked on lot sizing problems with remanufacturing under robust optimization. So I learned about even more different domains here. I've had more time to learn coding, and writing was one big skill that I had to learn that I, to be honest, didn't think about earlier on, but it was a big part of the journey. As well as solving large scale problems. We were always told that we would face large scale MIPs when I was still doing my bachelor's, but I was facing one myself during this time. So it was a different perspective on that, I think, to deal with one myself. And other methods such as robust optimization and optimization under uncertainty. And that brought me to today. Currently, I'm at ESG UCAM and SRALS here in Montreal, Canada, and I'm a postdoc here. And I'm working on different domains right now, such as discrete choice models and assortment optimization. And I also continue my research on robust and stochastic optimization here. And this is a very fast overview of what I've done so far up until date. But there's one observation that I wanted to share with you in particular today that I think really helped me on the journey. I believe that each one of these domains and different problems that I've worked on up until today have allowed me to learn a specific certain aspect from each one of them. And I believe that these aspects that we learn from different domains and different methods kind of help us in our future research projects pretty much. And it also helps us learn in specific ways. So there's like a unique perspective that I think every researcher themselves have on their research in that sort of way, because we all have a personal background experience that we bring into the table when we are conducting our future research. And I found that to be a very creative aspect of research in general, but especially in operations research, because we have so many domains and so many different methods where we can use these aspects sort of interchangeably. And I found that to be really creative, a creative aspect of research in general and operations research specifically. So I wanted to share that with you because that's always something that I keep in mind when I'm working on my future projects. And we'll see where the research journey will take me from here on out, I believe. So I think that was a little too fast, interestingly. So thank you so much for listening. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Rachel. I think you finished with just a minute to go. So it seems like you've had quite the journey. Thank you for sharing this with us. I think we'll move on to the next speaker. Thanks again, Rachel. We've got Sidra next. Sidra is a doctoral student at Strathclyde Business School, and she is working under the supervision of Professor Susan Howick and Professor Valerie Belton. So in her talk, she's going to summarize her research. So over to you, Sidra, whenever you're ready.
So hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Shima. I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. So thank you so much for introducing me. And I believe I'm pretty new to all this, and this is the first time that I'm presenting my work to anyone. So just to give what Shima said, my name is Sidra Tariq Chaudhary, and I'm a doctoral student at the Management Science Department. I'm working under the supervision of Professor Susan Hawkwin and Val Betton. I'm in my third year of my PhD now. My research project is aimed to study the skills which are used for mixed method practice and the teaching methods which are best suited to develop those skills. For the purpose of my research project, I have use the term mixed method to represent all forms of mixing in OR, including tools, techniques, methods, methodology, paradigm within a single intervention. Uh, the reason why I've chosen this topic essentially is that I was very interested in teaching, and mixed methods is something which is very popular over the last 2 decades. And because of that reason, and primarily what the reason highlighted in the literature is that they are better equipped to handle the richness and the complexities of the real world. You can utilize the benefit of each method. You're able to compensate for the weaknesses of the individual methods as well as support the different stages of a particular project by using mixed methods. Given that we do have the importance placed within the literature as well as within the practice, but what I discovered that most of the literature was focused on the application of specific methods or theoretical consideration while you're mixing those methods. And these accounts are very useful because they reveal a wealth of experience and knowledge regarding the implementation of specific tools and techniques. However, there's little discussion how you can actually avail or train people for such expertise. Also, these articles are based on case studies which are depicting the views of academics rather than practitioners. And again, within the literature, I found there was a difference in the breadth and the depth of knowledge for academics and practitioners. So we need to understand what mixed method skills are required through the lens of practitioners. So in 2017, there was a paper published by one of my professors, Susan, and she highlighted the need to train students in order to increase the uptake of mixed methods in real life settings. Taking the cue from there, the research project aimed to study two main questions, and those are, the first one is that what is the knowledge or the skills which is needed in order to practice mixed methods in real life settings. With this, the major focus is towards the training and the development of mixed method practitioners, which I mentioned early on. I have worked in Strathclyde as a tutor, and I'm working as a lecturer at City College of Glasgow. So I'm very interested in how people learn essentially. And due to that passion, I want to understand that what would be the teaching methods that could ensure the use of mixed methods in practice. So there are practitioners that are being practitioners which will be contacted to understand what teaching methods have helped them essentially, as well as talking to instructors in order to understand that what are the past, current, as well as potential teaching practices that can promote the development of mixed method skills and knowledge. And lastly, coming to that, as I said, I'm in the third year of my PhD, so I'm in the stages of data collection now. I just jumped into third year in February. So for first questions, I'm targeting practitioners. And for practitioners, I have already conducted 14 interviews, and the criteria that was agreed upon, and that was also based from what I saw at the one of the accreditation that OR Society provides, is that a minimum year of 5 years of experience in OR, and including experiences of mixed method in at least 2 practical intervention. With this, I've conducted 14 interviews so far. However, I'm still looking for practitioners. Also, for the second question, which is towards the teaching method, that for that purposes, I'm contacting program directors, essentially for master students. Also, for instructors who are teaching operational research, there's no criteria with respect to the number of years of experiences that they need to have, or whether they have taught mixed method or not, because there's very limited literature on this area. And anybody who has been teaching mixed method, if there is any, or they're promoting the practice or aiming to promote the practice in future, those would be my targeted audience. With that being said, that almost marks the end of my presentation. As I am in the stage of data collection, I've conducted 14 interviews. I'm still looking for practitioners on both ends, practitioners as well as academics. But academics, I'm looking more towards people who are actually teaching OR. And if they're teaching OR, are they intentionally or unintentionally trying to teach mixed method skills and knowledge? And with that, I would be really grateful if any one of you is interested in partaking in my research. I'm sending a link in the chat, and you can get your details there. And if you're interested, I can contact you likewise. So thank you for listening to me.
Perfect, Sarah. That was right on time. Really well done. I
Thank
think you
you.
summarized it really, really well as well. I'm looking forward to see what you find.
Yeah.
If anyone, again, just to reiterate to Russ' point, if you do want to sign up and participate in her study, please use the link in the chat to get details. Right, we've got time for our third speaker now. Our third speaker is Zoe. Zoe is a practitioner, and Zoe would like to introduce herself, so I'll keep it short as well. She's currently working in the operational analysis team at Transport for London, TfL. Her team provides insights on the road networks that TfL manages. The team's analysis covers all road users from general traffic, taxis, and freight to buses, cyclists, and pedestrians. So really interesting. All yours, Zoe. Please go for it.
Thanks very much, Shima. So yes, that's the current role that I'm in, and today I'm just going to show a few of our dashboards and tools that we developed. I'm not going to have very much time to get into any details. I'm kind of going to whiz through it, but just quickly as some background. So I'm another Strathclyder actually. So I did my master's in OR at Strathclyde and did maths at work before that, and then took a grad job at Ernst & Young. So they have a small operational research team there that's kind of in consulting, so working with lots of different clients in different sectors. So a really good place actually to develop out some different skills, lots of analytics going on there as well. And then since I've been at TfL, I started in the transport modelling team, who does a lot of micro simulation of pedestrian movements around stations, so underground stations generally. So trying to make the layout more optimal for the kind of flow of people, which is really interesting. And then I am now working in the operational analysis team, as Shima said. So that's what I'm going to show today. Hopefully it will work. And I'll whiz through some dashboards, as many as I can fit into 5 minutes, basically. We do various different reporting in the team. We've had some form of daily reporting and weekly reporting and periodic reporting going for a long time, but recently we've changed our weekly report into a Power BI dashboard, which is this, and it kind of shows you various different things about the network. So, for example, these are the key corridors that we manage as TfL. And the colours indicate the performance this week versus the same week last year. So you can see some of them are flagging as red where they're not, the journey times are slower than last year and some are green. We look at trends over time. So the flows are quite interesting in terms of the number of cars, number of traffic we're seeing on our roads that we manage. So this is a 12-month view at the bottom. And you can see a year ago, obviously when COVID hit and the first lockdown happened, flows were down 50% on last year. So massive drop off on the road traffic. Over the summer, they increased. You've had a couple of dips since with the various other lockdowns. And currently, we're down about 15% on last year. And that's increasing week on week, especially with the schools having gone back last week. So we look at the trends in flows, but also the trends in journey times, which follow a very similar pattern. So this is for the general traffic, but we also look at buses, which is down here. I hope my screen isn't too laggy. Well, actually, probably have no idea what I'm talking about. So buses, again, very similar trend, but this is actually a 2-year view. So you can see even more clearly that impact of COVID and the bus journey time is speeding up as there's less traffic to have to deal with. And then something that a lot of people are very interested in is cycling. So for this, we have a sample of sensors across London, which are these dots in the bottom right. And then you can see the trends in the last week or so. This is a couple of weeks old, but across the hours. So what we've seen kind of consistently throughout lockdown is that there's been an increase in cycling levels during the weekend and during the interpeak, so middle of the day. And we've seen reduced cycling levels during the AM and PM peaks where people would traditionally be commuting, as you might expect with less commuting. But yeah, we've seen consistently since the first lockdown, massive increases in cycling at the weekend, up to about 200% increase on last year, some weekends. We've done more specific analysis for some of the streets-based schemes that are out on the network. So part of that increase in cycling, we're hoping is due to the improved infrastructure that we're providing for cyclists. So there's more kind of pop-up cycle lanes, segregated cycle lanes going out. And we're monitoring some of those specifically to monitor both the impact for cyclists, so sending out people to do manual counts where we don't have current infrastructure, or putting up some clever AI cameras which can identify the different modes of traffic, including cyclists, but also monitoring the impact on other modes. So like this, you can see is basically the coverage of one scheme. In terms of bus journey times, general traffic journey times, and all the dots are where we're monitoring flows of either traffic or cycles. So that's just one example, but there's loads of them going on. Another spatial kind of monitoring is of buses, just in general across the network, which is in this dashboard. So this is a kind of weekly summary looking year on year. at where bus journey times have got better or got worse. And we can use that to identify any hotspots or places where we might need to intervene and change like the signal timings, so change the traffic light timings to give buses more green time if there's particular issues being caused, or potentially where there's lots of green, there's the opportunity to increase the schedules and change the schedules so that more buses can get through, and fewer buses are actually needed to use.
1 more minute, Zoe.
1 more minute, okay,
Yeah.
That's cool. So in terms of like the signal timings, for example, we have a team that deals with that, and they need to measure the benefits they've created for the sustainable modes. So generally where they do a signal timing, it'll be to benefit buses or pedestrians or cyclists. So we have a tool they can use to measure the benefits. So it looks at the kind of journey times over time and their kind of before period and after period after an intervention. And then we'll kind of determine whether there's been any significant betterment of those journey times, kind of multiply it by the number of people that are expected to use that specific mode, whether that's the number of buses that run through there, the number of the patronage of the buses, or could be the number of cyclists, and create a nice benefit for them. What else? And then this is another map of our general traffic journey times. So just one note before I finish, which is about kind of future considerations. So currently I flicked up for cycling, for example. We have kind of spot sensors throughout London, but we also do absorb Strava data. So from Strava users, which is an app you can record your cycling on, we have lots of data coming through, but we're in the process of building a model to uplift the raw Strava counts, which are not necessarily representative of Pan-London cycling, using some of our other data sources, create a big model and predict kind of a representative Pan-London cycling picture, which will reduce the need for some of the more costly manual counts and new cameras. That's a massive whistle-stop tour. Also, we are going to be recruiting soon. So if anyone is interested, then drop me a message and I can share the details of that with you. Shima, I'm looking at you. Anyone else is also welcome. That's it. There we go.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you. That was really insightful. I know that the next time that I visit London, and who knows when that may be, I will most certainly remember your talk. Thank you. So we've now come to the end of our first round. We will move on to our first networking breakout, so we can further interact with our wonderful speakers. Don't forget that we have 3 more to go in our second round, and they're equally wonderful and interesting, I must say. So please do come back. Amy, please do your thing. I'll hand it over to you. Welcome back, everyone. Hi, Nanzia.
Hi, Shima. Well done. You're doing a fantastic job. So.
Welcome back, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed your networking session. I certainly. I think we're now ready to start round 2. Am I okay to start round 2, Amy?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, really awesome. Okay, so first speaker is Gina Jenkins. Gina is currently the Director of Analytics at Trustpilot. In her talk, she's going to share with us her experience of being an early career professional in a leadership position. Should be really interesting. Go ahead, Gina, all yours.
Great, thanks. I'll go ahead and share. Okay, I think I'm good. All right. I'm going to turn on my timer really quick, otherwise I will totally run over time.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So my name is Gina Jenkins. I am the Director of Analytics at Trustpilot, which is sort of the world's leading review platform. You probably see the ads all over the tube or on television. It's quite big in the UK. And so I will talk a bit about sort of being early in my analytics career and being in a leadership position, as Shima said. So just talking a bit about my background really briefly. So I have a very atypical background for sort of analytics type roles in sort of the industry. So I started out with a sociology and English degree back in 2011. I moved into sort of nonprofit work and event planning. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, and that sort of was interesting for the time. Then I decided to switch into a teaching role, teaching English in China. And at that point, I sort of had to make a decision about where I wanted to go. Analytics and data seemed like a really, really interesting sort of career path. With my background in sociology, it fit from that sort of research perspective. And I was able to kind of switch into a BI role in 2017. I started at a startup in New York in the US. And then in 2018, I moved to Trustpilot. I was a lead analyst on our commercial analytics team and then moved into a director of analytics role. So it's been quite a whirlwind when it comes to my actual sort of analytics career. And I'm currently doing a master's in BI and analytics at University of Westminster. So, oh gosh, why isn't this letting me move? There we go. Okay. So getting into a leadership position, I think for the first question for people is often, how do you do it? What should you do? What do I do to move into a managerial position? For me, the things that seem to work, I think number one is all about planning and making some decisions about where you want to go and committing to it. So creating some short and medium term goals for yourself and working toward them. This is a critical step that a lot of people often don't do, but if you don't plan for it, it's not going to happen. And I think especially in sort of this area, one of the decisions that you need to make is around whether you want to go a management track or a technical track. So whether you want to become sort of a individual contributor or whether you want to kind of go, director and C-level and kind of more of that manager side. I think one of the key things too is asking for help. So I'm going to keep coming back to this, but asking for help from your manager to get there is really, really, really important so that you can get to different levels of your work. Because if they don't know what you want to do, they can't really help you. I think another key thing that's really important is being really honest about your strengths and weaknesses. So, as I sort of think about it, you kind of have your technical hard skills and then you've got your soft skills. And frankly, what we often see in this area is that people are better at technical and not so good on the soft skills. But there's usually kind of a shift toward one or the other, but you can't be the best at all of these things. And so you need to kind of focus on what you're good at naturally, and then focus on supporting those weak spots. And again, ask for help to address your weaknesses. So for me personally, my strengths were really around working with people. I was a teacher, around stakeholder management, and understanding how businesses work. My weaknesses then were on the technical side, and I'm also not very precise. I tend to be very sort of big picture. So, in working with my manager, it was sort of very clear that, I'm more of kind of like a managerial side, and that's kind of the direction I need to go. I'll bolster my technical skills a bit, but I'm never going to be sort of the best in that area, and I should play to my strengths. So once you make it to that level, what happens? If you move into a leadership position, how is it different from being an individual contributor? So to me, successful leadership looks like being very clear on your values. So I think it's super important as a leader to be 100% clear on your values, and it helps you to make decisions that are good decisions. If you're not clear on those, it's quite a struggle. I think it's also important to build a strong, diverse team. If you have some weaknesses, find some other people who have strengths in that area. I think it's also really important to have a vision and then communicate it. You're the one, instead of being the one who's sort of listening to priorities, listening to other people's vision, you have to start getting your vision out there and then communicating it to everybody. Some of the challenges we come across, and I know I'm going to be a little bit over, I'm really sorry. Some of the challenges we come across for me personally is really around the ambiguity piece. So the priority list is not as clear cut as it once was, and that can be really, really difficult to deal with. There's also dependencies where you have to rely on teams like HR and other teams to sort of support you and make sure that things are, okay, which is a struggle. And leadership, I found, is learned, it's not inherent. So the leadership skills you might have had previously don't always translate from one level to another, and you need to level up. So last slide here. So as I kind of look back on sort of what I learned and what you kind of need to do to be in a leadership position, in my view, I think you still need to ask for help. Sorry. Getting a coach or a mentor in the business that you don't directly work with can be immensely helpful. Focusing on what's important to you and deprioritizing other stuff. It's really all about sort of what you want out of the experience and ensuring that you get the good stuff done, as well as sort of, just focus on the important things. But then importantly, most importantly, I would say, is to take care of yourself, maintain that work-life balance, really work on making that work for you, and just make sure you're having fun with a job, because you can kind of tend to get overwhelmed with the amount of things going on, which can be very difficult. So that's it. That was really fast.
Thank you, Gina. That was really inspirational. Certainly gave us a lot to think about, I think.
Awesome.
A minute over, but let's let that go. Next, we've got, thank you again, Gina. We've got Hazel. So Hazel's got a very interesting career so far. She's the analytics leader, and she's got a personal mission to use data to drive innovation for products that have a positive and meaningful impact on society. She's joining us from today from TransferWise, where she's the head of analytics for consumer products. Previously, Hazel spent 4 years at LinkedIn, where she led the global product and consumer strategy for enterprise solutions. And young ones, listen up. Hazel is deeply passionate about empowering early career talent to pursue an intentionally and gratifying professional path, and works very closely, especially with women who are interested in a career in analytics and science. So in her talk today, she's going to focus on her previous team's work at LinkedIn around gender insights and the different behavioral patterns observed on LinkedIn between men and women when it comes to job search. Over to you, Hazel.
Thank you for that introduction, Shima. I'll just share my screen really quick. You guys can see this, right? Yes. Assuming yes. Okay, yep. Cool. So again, thank you, Shima, for that introduction. I currently lead product analytics at TransferWise, but I've only joined about 3 months ago. Previously, I was at LinkedIn for 4 years. So my talk will be on some of my work that I did there, and the reports that the company produces that I think are really helpful to go over with you guys. So I've built my career around analytics, but specifically behavioral analytics. And when I was at LinkedIn, a lot of what I did was actually analyzing the different candidate behavior that we see on the platform and trends in hiring, the skill sets that are coming up, and the changes that we're seeing in the global economy. I wanted to center my talk around the trends because I strongly believe that data is an incredibly powerful change agent. I've been seeing during these talks how many different implications there can be of data and analytics. And I think if there's one thing that I want to keep communicating here is that all of our work is incredibly important, and it can be the starting point for a very important conversation. So that's something that I feel really passionate about. I think the timing made sense also for this dialogue, given the changes that we've been seeing in the global economy. There are a lot of transformations happening in what we consider to be the future of work, and we need to essentially invest in ourselves, expand our understanding of what's happening, and be better prepared. So in the next now 4 minutes or so, I'll cover some of the trends that I had worked on the employment side and the gender disparity that we see in job seeking behavior. And then maybe if we get to it, the role that LinkedIn can play in your professional journey. So as a user of any social platform, you obviously use these platforms as a way to connect with each other and further your careers, or expand your network in XYZ platforms. I think being on the data side, it provided me a great visibility into, again, the trends that we were seeing. LinkedIn believes very strongly about using our understanding of what we've gathered from the data that we see, and producing reports that would help young professionals or professionals in general make better decisions throughout their journeys. And they call that the economic graph. And I think when I was there, we've had a great ability to be able to produce these reports given the richness of the data. Oh, why is it not moving? Okay. What the data also allowed us to do was to produce reports when different global trends happen. So this was one that I worked on. We've produced since then multiple quarter snapshots of this, but this was the first view where we decided to use the LinkedIn data to look at what the hiring trends were as a result of the COVID outbreak. Initially, the focus was China, Italy, and US. If you guys recall, back in last March, we saw a lot of, we saw China and Italy getting hugely hit by the COVID outbreak, which resulted in the hiring trends, and we were able to see that. Most recently, this was a report that I started that the team finished up, where we specifically looked at what COVID did to the share of women in the new hires across different industries. So you'll see here, obviously, starting from the March-May period, where all of the global economy saw a hit in employment, women were especially hit harder. Industries that allowed for either had a demand for women or allowed for more flexible working arrangements saw less of a dip or somewhat of an increase, but you can see travel, recreation, retail that are typically very female driven saw a big dip in employment. During that time, women were 26% more likely than men to apply for remote work, which makes intuitive sense because given what was happening in the global economy, I think a lot more women felt the need to figure out a flexible work environment to care for their children or provide care for elderly. And that's why we see different trends happening across different industries. That trend was also mirrored across the globe. Again, some countries were hit harder than others, but the ones that were able to provide more of a structured support during this pandemic were able to maintain their female workforce. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case for places like France, Italy, also UK. UK seems to be on the global trends on par with it, but some of the European countries were hit harder. In general, this isn't COVID specific, but what we had seen was that when looking for jobs, women were less likely to ask for referrals and rely on their networks. And also there was a little bit of a bias on the recruiter side to choose female candidates over males. When I look at this visual that we had worked on, which I find to be really powerful, we also see that if women are not asking for, relying on their connections, and they also have weaker networks than men, I think it makes their positioning in the workforce really difficult, especially when we see negative effects of the economy and what the job opportunities are available for women.
Hello.
I'm
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I can send this over. I had also pulled, given what we're seeing in the LinkedIn side, I had also looked at if there are additional trends that I could pick up that would complement from what we're seeing in the additional research across the globe. And essentially the trend is the same, that women are getting hit much, much harder than men, given the nature of the work that they do, and unfortunately the inequality that exists in the workforce. I'll send these over, and then essentially I'll just leave you with, as women, it's really important that we take an active role in our professional journey and using whatever platform we have in our networks to ensure that we're taking meaningful steps and protecting our voice in the workforce. Happy to continue the conversation offline. I'll share my contact information as well as in the breakout groups, but thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Hazel. That was really, really interesting information. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions for you in the breakout room. Our last speaker for the day is Tuko. Tuko is currently working as a faculty member at Berkin University, Department of Information Science in Turkey. She will describe her background in her talk, so I'm not going to go on that too much. And in her talk, she intends to point out the importance of open data and the need for common software for obtaining professional use of multi-criteria decision-making methods in all yours today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Now I'm sharing. I hope you can see.
We can.
Yeah. That's great. My name is Tuko. My purpose to attend this speak, actually, I would like to give you two main questions that I'm thinking about myself. But before we go, I'm trying to introduce myself. I have a bachelor degree in econometrics and also archaeology and the prehistory. And my master's degree has statistics, and I have finished sciences. And now I'm main research areas on application of multivariate statistics on both business science and also archaeology. And I'm involved in data mining, mainly multi-criteria decision-making and some fuzzy applications of MCDM. And also I'm involved in the digital or computational archaeology. In winters, I'm continue to giving lectures, and in summers, we are attending to the excavations, and we are digging in the Aegean side of Turkey. And today my agenda involves in two main questions, one about the open data. The second one is a need for a common software for the well-known MCDM or multi-criteria decision-making tools. I'm sure you are familiar what are these. That's why I'm not explaining. When we came to the importance of open data, I found out 5 important points about it. The first one is to encourage and facilitating research, because one considerable motivation of having raised the rate of discovery. And by having access to data easily, all of us, or scientists and the practitioners or the academicians, can use to fuel their work. And the more data we have access, it's easier to identify some trends, and more evidence there can support our claims. And of course, open data also enables our collaboration. And we know that 2 heads are better than 1, and being open with our collaborations really speeds up our research processes. The second point is about to reduce data loss, because we can reduce the risk of data degradation by opening up the data access. This is simply because if more people have access to data, there are likely to be more copies of it. In turn, this means that if one copy is compromised, then there are still others available. And the data can also be said to be kept alive to an extent, and if people are still working on and research with it, then it remains relevant. And the other point is about the transparency. Transparency is the key of data integrity and good science practices. And by sharing it, we can enable replicability and reproducibility. It also enables us an opportunity for proper peer reviews to be performed, and for suggestions as to work, how the work can be improved. And I think it's also important for supporting any work we might publish, and so others can understand how we came to our conclusions.
One moment.
And another point is about the publicly funded. Okay, then I will continue with my next point. The next point is about the need for a common software, MCDM tools. When I made a search with keywords with MCDM, and one of the raising area for our applications, logistics, I have found only academic articles. But when I did this search with the keywords with business analytics, case studies of the firms and also academic articles, it shows us the application on the professional area is more than the MCDM tools. When I searched how many different software are there related to this MCDM, when I search for the MCDM Society page, I have found 30 different softwares related to MCDM, but there is only one package in R, which is an open access software, which means we have no chance to make these professional firms to make these practical applications by using these 30 different softwares. And I want to leave these two questions to you in order to discuss in our small groups. One is, how will we encourage the researchers to share their data? And the other one, how will we find out a solution for this kind of problem about this software? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tuko. You asked compelling questions. Hopefully we'll be able to find some answers for you. I think we now come to our second networking session. Thank you everyone for staying with us so far. If you do have to leave, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you at the next event. For those of you who are staying, see you in the breakout rooms. Thank you. I hope you all had a really lovely networking session. And thank you all for attending. A special thank you to all of our speakers. You were absolutely fantastic. Had a lovely time. If any of you are not members of the WORAN committee, please join. And I am meant to be sharing a page, which I'm not at the moment, so I'll quickly try and do that. The link to join the OR Society is on here. I hope you can see it. Many thanks to Amy for all her support. We would really love to get some feedback about the session. I request everyone to try and click on the feedback form and thought. And just thank you everyone for coming. We hope to see you all at the next event on the 26th of April. Hope you all have a lovely rest of the day. We've got 5 minutes. I don't know if anybody wanted to ask questions to any of our speakers. If you do want to, please go ahead. No questions?
Oh, can I hate a silence. Just, I don't have any questions anymore because I'm too tired. But I thought that was a fantastic session. Thanks ever so much, Shima, for organising it. It's not easy to get people to commit to doing everything in 5 minutes. And thank you to all the speakers for having a go. I have been saying in my own breakout rooms, if anybody wants to contact me or get in touch on LinkedIn, then please do. And I think that's probably true for most of us. So if you want to, if you feel like contacting anybody on LinkedIn, the worst they can do is ignore you. And it's nice to try and keep in touch with some of these some of the long-term connections. So, and I could see Tuko's also, I've also got a private follow-up on a couple of things. So yeah, that was all I wanted to say, but thanks. Great.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you. Everyone, thank you so much again. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Hope to catch up with all of you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.